And so there's probably only one biker out there who's made more money biking than Brian Rast. That's Lance, and he's got one ball.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us lacking. Me and my buddy.
All right, check this out. Elon Musk, Tiger Woods, Larry Page and Sergey, founders of Google, John F. Kennedy, Brian Rast. What do they have in common?
I've heard of them.
That's it. No, all Stanford University dropouts. So some people, you meet them, they're successful, have a conversation with them, and you think, this guy's smart. It's not that he's not smart. I think I could maybe achieve what this guy achieved. You know, I'm in the same relative ballpark of smartness. Brian Rast, not one of those people.
Oh, I see.
Valedictorian, like the perfect score on his SAT, or basically
1550, yeah.
Close enough. Yeah. Missed a few.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's embarrassing.
But some people's ovens just burn hotter. And Brian Rast, big oven. Would you agree?
Yes, yeah, he burns hot, and he might burn some pizzas, you know, like top of his mouth is probably scolding.
So we wrapped up our interview with him. We got so much bread out of that oven that we had to turn it into 2 parts. So this is going to be part 1 of 2. The one thing I would say pay attention to is the man is not afraid to jump headlong into whatever he thinks is interesting, I should say.
Yeah, that's right. Passionate. Whatever he's passionate about. He just...
Yeah, so follow along with that, and then at some point we'll have part 2 out and you can enjoy that. But for now, this is part 1.
Yep. All right, guys, welcome to Table 1 Podcast. Justin Young, Art Parmann, and probably, I don't know, a very, very, very special, I'm going to add an extra very special guest. Brian Rast is with us today.
I don't know. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me.
Our pleasure.
Just background anyway, like for me with Brian Rast, like when I first moved to Vegas, he was actually playing the same cash games I was. It was a little short-lived just because he kind of went up the ladder a little quicker than me, and still climbing, I suppose. But either way, like we weren't like friends, but like we were very friendly together for like, you know, for a bunch of years, and it was nice to see. Like,
yeah, we played going back, way back actually.
Oh, yeah. 2006, 7, 8, like it was a while ago.
Like the 10, 20, 25, 50 no limit games, 100%.
That's right. Yeah, like we were the young guns back in the day for a hot second.
Yeah.
How old are you, Brian?
42.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're I'm 37. So you guys are both in the class above me in many ways.
I'm 44. So yeah, I got about a year and a half on you. It's January birthday.
All right. This was set up like young to old
it's
right
like
here.
This is what you're gonna look like when you get 44. So okay, quick story though, like, and then we'll get into the Brian story. I was playing Bay 101, and this is when you would already kind of made it, and you were like one of the shooting stars. Remember those tournaments?
Okay, yeah.
And like you remember those fans in San Jose? They were awesome. They'd come up and ask for like autographs, and like, you know, they want pictures with people and all that fun stuff. Vaguely,
sounds right. I guess. Yeah.
This is I can't remember what year this was. My guess would be somewhere around 2010. And I got asked 3 different times.
I think you've told me this before. Yeah. Okay.
3 different times for my autograph, and I was like, "Oh, this is so nice." And then they call me Brian Rast. I'm like, "Well, I'm not Brian Rast." And the first 2 people are like, "Oh, so sorry. Like, it's, you know, my bad." Like, you know, I was like, "No problem." The third guy would not believe me. He thought I was just lying to his face. He's just like, "No, you're Brian." I was like, I promise I'm not.
Being a dick, okay?
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'm not Brian. Like,
just say you don't want to give me an autograph. I mean,
and I said no twice, and the third time I was like, you know what? I am Brian Rast. Fuck it. So like he gave me, it was like a piece of paper with a bunch of other people's, like, you know, signatures. Like Phil Locke's on there, and Tony's, like, everyone's on there. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm gonna do a signature, Brian Rast. And I got the pen in my hand. I'm like, I don't know how to make a cursive B anymore. It's been too long. I'm just like staring at it. I'm like, we're just gonna give it a go.
Go squiggles.
It was just like, and I was like, here you go. And he couldn't be happier, honestly. He really, like, for being like a guy that kind of pressed me for a bit. He was like, oh, thank you so much. It means so much to me. I was like, Well, somewhere
somebody thinks you're Brian.
it might be on eBay somewhere at this point, but
Yeah, that one's, watch out. Fake Brian Rast signature out there, guys.
That's great. It's like nobody didn't know who you are, and not quite famous enough to like actually know who you are, but you must be Brian Rast at the time. That's fucking
dark
weird.
hair, scraggly beard, or like a shorter beard at the
We both
time.
have a similar kind of facial hair thing
Like I
going
said,
on.
this is what you're gonna look like
Yeah.
in a year and a half.
I know. I know.
I'm sorry to tell you. Well, outside of this, I hear you work out and whatnot.
I've been taking pretty good care of myself the last 2 years. I feel good about that. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, like you got in a boxing match.
Oh, Jesus
That was a while ago, but actually since then, one of my main ways I work out nowadays is like boxing workouts. They're fun.
Yeah, I
They're
hear that's
fun and
good.
They're good, like great kind of mix of cardio, strength, everything. I don't know. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights gets really boring. It's hard. It's just hard for me to do it,
But constantly like retaking your anger out on Sorrel is.
I'm pretty sure if I fought Sorrel today, I would whoop his ass.
There we go. The start of another prop.
Today. Like if we fought today with no training, I mean, he is younger than me, he's a little bit bigger than me. You know, if we trained, we see what happens. But I'm pretty sure he's out of shape right now. Well, actually, no, that's not entirely true. I did talk to him. He's playing like paddleball. But he hasn't been training for a couple years, so I'm positive I've trained more than him.
Yeah, you're hitting the bags and he's hitting fucking wiffle balls.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I would beat him down if we got in the ring today. Maybe not in like 8 months, but
You're gonna make the line move. Come on, stop, man. Like I want to bet on you.
Yeah, for those of you out there that have no idea what we're talking about, there was a epic prop bet boxing match between Brian Rast and Sorrel Mizzi. So you guys just look it up and you can.
yeah, you can watch me get my ass kicked.
I watched it live. I remember watching it live because like our whole table had like bets on it.
Yeah, that's right.
I was an idiot and
showing.
took him. No.
All right. Well, why don't you give the puff up backstory now that we talked about him getting his ass kicked? You did the research, Justin. Tell us about Brian's accomplishment.
Might have helped me with my bike bets that were for like way more later because people are like, wow,
right, I
physically you
forgot
must
about
just be
that.
a total wuss.
What are these? I haven't
And
heard about
just
these.
He had
fucking
to like ride a bike from like LA to like Vegas or something,
Yeah.
right? Like on the fucking highway.
I actually crushed a trifecta
Yeah.
of bike bets. I bet on Dan Bilzerian, and
I
I got a
remember
bet down with somebody who will remain nameless, who bought out for like 40%. So I made like $500,000, and then I won 600 on. I won over $1 million, like $1.5 million or something, in like 3 bike bets in a period of like 5 months.
That's more
From Dan's bet to where someone bet me and then bought out, and then literally because I had given Dan 25% of the bet, and we're like at my house, like a barbecue, drinking and talking about it, and I'm like, dude, I just let the guy. I was gonna ship this. And Dan's like, oh, all you guys think it's so fucking easy, blah, 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 blah. And then I bet Dan.
He bet against you?
And I had to go. I had to go in
him?
like 40 hours. I had to leave. And then when Dan helped me, he was going to organize it. I was giving him the 25%. He was going to have his team, his coach, everything was going to be organized. Then he bet me. And then I did it. And I couldn't use his recumbent bike. It was road bikes only. And shit, and I'd never really ridden road bikes before. I mean, it was, also it's like I had to do, the route I was going to do in the other bet, I was going to go south like 300 miles down Route 1 in California. So pretty flat, wind kind of coming sideways, maybe like slightly at my back. Whereas like the route I did, Vegas to LA, there's a stretch in the middle where wind actually was coming at me 20 to 30 miles an hour. And when his bike coach saw it after we booked the bet, which I don't know if Dan knew this before he came and was fishing it at some point, but like his coach said, Brian, you have 0% chance of doing this, but you might as well give it a college try. Then I tried to buy out with Bill and Perkins and Dan for like 10K of my 100K risk. And Bill's like, I already bought my private jet. It's got to be like 50. And I'm like, well, fuck that. Like 50, I'm just going to try it.
Yeah, of
and then I
course.
fucking shipped it on him. Let's go. And they didn't bet me. They liked their side so much that they lost 600 to me, but that's like $1 million to other people. Like Antonio won like 400 plus, and a bunch of other people bet on me.
Jesus.
So they got smashed in that bet.
So how much of the
And they
trip?
thought they had the best of it.
Yeah, well, champion. How much of the trip were you like?
Never bet against the man. That's the fucking lesson, I don't mean like, I mean the man isn't like Not like I'm the man, just like the man who like believes he can do something and is going to try 100%. Like, because the thing is, people surprise themselves and everyone like when they really go like 100% at something. Because we're all wusses in the modern world and like don't really try, but like you can surprise yourself with what you can do if your back's up against
So do you think it'd be different if they if the coach would have told you, yeah, you got this, it's no problem, it'd be super easy? No, you just win anyway.
I would have then I wouldn't have even tried to buy out. That would have been the difference. I bet
try to get more money down.
Yeah, actually, they probably wouldn't have bet more. Like other people wouldn't have won in that situation. They bet more because
Dan's
of that.
bike coach.
Yeah, he probably cost them money is what happened.
And so there's probably only one biker out there who's made more money biking than Brian Rast. That's Lance, and he's got one ball.
How many balls do you have just for the public?
For the fans at home? Are you fully bald?
You have one more ball, and you've made more money, or close enough money as Lance, or is it close?
A ball?
You know, that's a scrotum.
Oh,
testicle.
yeah. Oh, shit, he's a one baller?
Lance Armstrong is a one baller.
Not by choice. I think he had cancer.
Well, that's, you know.
It makes him more aerodynamic, so he chopped one off.
You can tuck one really easy.
Yeah, one's easy to tuck.
If you got one ball, are you allowed to supplement test or no?
You know, that's a good question.
Yeah, you know, like.
Maybe that's why he did it.
We'll leave that
all
for
the angles.
And watch it. They can write in the comments, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very nice. All right. So let's get to the point where you can actually make bets against Dan Bilzerian and Bill Perkins in a bet, which is already cool as shit.
No, that was later. That was much later.
Yeah. So like I know for sure because I looked it up on Wikipedia and they're never wrong that you were a valedictorian of your high school.
That was correct.
And then you went on to Stanford University.
I was a really good student in I crushed it in high school. Yeah.
Not the puss, the books. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, like I got 1550 or 60 on my SAT, only 800s on SAT 2s. Bunch of, our quiz bowl team went to the city championship. I was the captain. I went to the States twice in Lincoln Douglas debate. Just a bunch of valedictorian. My class was like 800 kids. So it wasn't a small class. Yeah. No ties, baby.
So when you went to Stanford, what was the goal? Like what was the major, what was like the end goal going to be at that point?
I didn't really know. That was like one of the issues. It's like when I was in high school, I had a really good little situation where like all my friends were in the AP honors classes also. My goal was to get into a good college and just, people would come over, we'd like play GoldenEye, play basketball after school, like do some homework, And it was all good. And it was like high school was nice in the sense of, I don't know, like I did my work, right? I didn't get all A's by like not doing work, but pretty much just going to class and like doing my homework was all I needed to do.
That was enough, yeah.
Right, like I didn't have to study. Like, in fact, a lot of people in my classes studied a lot more than me. But I was just in a good spot to like do well in school. When I went to college, it kind of like changed. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. My first year in college, I knew I wanted to run a Counter-Strike clan, and we were really good. We were 44-2 in match play. Okay, I was like.
Do you know what Counter-Strike is?
Yeah, we were sick. Yeah, we actually beat WEW. They were this really good clan from Texas that ended up like winning whatever the championships were. They won like a couple $100,000.
Version Cup. Virgin Cup.
I started playing in the betas, seriously. And then like a little bit later after I kind of quit. But whatever, anyway, I was really good at that. And then sophomore year did good in school, but then by junior year I was playing poker. And once it was like poker, I knew poker was what I wanted to do. Like once I started
Just junior year, like what did it for you? Was it like something on TV?
This guy, Mike Asmar, he's probably never going to watch this, but if he does, yo, what's up, buddy? Him and some of his friends started like a poker club, and they put these like posters up around Stanford, like just spoofing Fight Club, like the #1 rule of poker club is you don't talk about poker club and stuff. And so I ended up going, and I had played poker. Like I loved games, strategy games, all kinds of card games, whatever. And so I had played a little bit of poker with my high school friends, but just like very small amount. And then when I kind of started playing earnest was that year, my junior year in college, went to poker club and just like once a week, and you bring like $10, $20, $40 and just play different games. And pretty soon by then, like Mike had a book. By the later part of that year, I had just started playing online a little bit. I put some money on like Royal Vegas Poker.
Wow.
Actually lost my first deposit.
We all do.
And then which was, I don't know, $50 or something.
It's always $50.
And Jonathan Little, he didn't lose it.
My second deposit on, and I like never deposited money online again. It was like I won, and then you net teller to here, and that. And then it started going live, but like live, the close casinos there were like limit hold'em. So it was like limit, no limit online. But then kind of what happened is that summer, when I went back, I was like, I want to take poker serious. So I got like some part-time temp job where actually it was very interesting. I did this thing, and obviously I was like super overqualified to be a temp. So like high intelligence, whatever. They gave me some job, and my job was, here's all these urine samples. Just do this, run the test, turn in the results. So I was just like by myself in a little thing with the computer. I'd put in music, boom, 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 make $10 an hour, whatever the fuck it was. And then I took that money and I was playing poker. And that summer, I basically went from nothing to 20K.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What kind of games were you playing? Cash games, tournaments, sit and goes?
Live, I went to Barona Casino in San Diego, and I started out playing 3-6 limit. By the end, I was playing 6-12. And then online, I was, I don't know, playing like 25, 50 cent no limit or whatever online. And
wow, 20K in a fucking summer. That's
in the summer. I think like 4K of it or something. I did get some like bad beat jackpot at Barona for like 4K.
Oh, wow.
So I will say like 20% of it was, BS luck, but.
Were you the top level or were you just at the table?
Honestly, I don't even remember which one it was. I think I was one of the two people in the hand, so I got more.
But you don't remember the hand?
I don't, actually. I don't.
Right.
So, yeah, and then it's like once I went back to school, by that point, I was like, knew that I wanted to play poker.
Guys, I'm rich. I can't lose money.
I got this 20 dimes, baby.
No, it's one of the things I started to realize was that like I could win. Like my ambitions for poker at that were way smaller than how my career worked out. It was like, if I do put this poker thing, I can instantly start making probably, I started figuring that year as I was playing more. I'm like, I bet I could make like 100 to 200K a year. Or I could, I don't even know what I want to do. I'm like, guess I'm majoring in math, but I don't really love it, and I'm going to get a job where I got to go work for someone, and it's going to suck. So I'm going to play poker. And once that happened, just my motivation for school went out the window, and math was actually not the major I needed anymore because I had just chosen that for practical reasons. And so it was like you had to turn a problem set every week, and that was terrible. Maybe I could have actually finished college because my dad convinced me, not like. He was like, I would talk with him, and he would say stuff that made sense. But when I went there, it's like the spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak.
That's fucking good, yeah.
And I just couldn't really do it. So I stayed at my junior year, actually went for a quarter, I was up there for a little while. I was up there for enough time to have gotten a degree, but I didn't, I failed all my classes once. It's my second time on academic probation, the final quarter. And I'm just like, I can't do this. It's poker time.
So I need to know how your parents felt about it. Like your dad seems like a logical guy.
My dad was actually getting into poker as I was.
Nice.
Not like he played a little bit. He read some books because he just knew this was interesting to me.
He knew it was a skill game.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's like, listen, Brian, you've worked really hard. I mean, listen, my dad is right. You've worked really hard. You got into Stanford. Maybe the poker thing doesn't work out. Like you should just finish and get your degree, and then by all means play poker when you're done. Right? Just super kind of obvious logical advice. It's just I'm kind of the type of person who, when I like something and I'm passionate about it, I'm just like all in. It consumes me. But then if it's not in that sphere, I just can't be bothered. So it's like once school was out of that, it was just too hard for me to be bothered. And it's like maybe I could have glided by and if I liked philosophy. It was the type of thing where I could blow off a bunch of classes and turn in papers and do okay. But math, upper level math, where you every week problem sets, that I wasn't, and I'm very good at math, but I'm not some elite person who did like the international math Olympiad and going to Stanford, I could blow off math, not turn in problem sets, at like that level and.
Right. Yeah. Like
yeah. Well, you're in good company with the Stanford dropouts. I mean, getting into that elite level and dropping out, there's a high correlation of success there. I feel like if it's dropping out of your own like free will because you found something more interesting.
Yeah. No, but I think in general in life, like that's it's one of the things I've come to appreciate about school. That happens to a lot of people at different levels of school. Like with me, I have that real big high school success story, but a lot of that is because I was just in such a good, conducive place where I was like happy and everything lined up and it was easy for me. But then, there's a lot of people who just, maybe they could have been there as well, but they just didn't have everything lined up in the same way. And so they got dismotivated earlier, whatever.
All right, before we get on to like more of your poker career, I want to go back to when a lot of times what you see in people who end up being like super successful, which you obviously are, is like there's something, would you say there's something about you when you were like 12, 13, 14 years old that was different in other kids that like for instance, your high level, what was it, CS, Counter-Strike, high level Counter-Strike player, and then there's people who like start businesses on World of Warcraft, like farming, stuff like that. Like, was there something about you that you feel like was different than other kids that could kind of predict your success now, other than like obviously you had your head down, you were grinding school super hard, or do you think that it didn't come until you were already in Stanford when you started like going on your trajectory?
I mean, I'd say the attributes were, I'm intelligent, I'm a good learner, and when I like something, I have no qualms about just like going at it with like passion and discipline. And so I just kind of think those things are a recipe for whatever it was I like probably found in life. I was probably going to be successful at it, just because, I take something, I figure it out, and it's like I'm the type of person who, it's like I don't really enjoy doing things that don't require me like thinking about it and almost like figuring out how to get better at it. Like even my hobbies, like I love the UFC. My hobby is with the UFC is like betting on it. Like I have a bunch of accounts. I try to find the best line and like think about who's going to win this fight and why, and then bet on it. Like I follow the NBA. I don't bet the regular season, but once the playoffs comes along, I like who's going to win this series and I bet on it. Like I don't know. So I really like this process of like thinking and improving at something. And so it's like that's actually part of the fun for me. I'm like weird that way. Like so
I get that. That's cool.
So I just I just feel like it's the type of thing where I end up naturally getting good at a lot of things I do, because like getting good at them is part of what makes it fun for me. It's like I like it, but then getting good at it's also fun.
Yeah, and you're like leveling up as you go.
As I do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like we're similar in that, like, and once you get to a point where you're good at it, you kind of lose interest and you need to find a new passion, or at least that's the way it is for me. And like, I'm not even talking about poker or anything like that, but like when I go all in, it's just a year, 2 years, 5 years of just like, this is my hobby, this is what I'm doing. And then as soon as I kind of reach whatever goal I'm like attaining, then like it stops being fun for me, because like the process is the best part. Like it's
no, that never really happened with me for poker. Well, it did actually happen, but due to ancillary reasons, I'd say. Like, I never really got burned out with poker because I felt like I kept improving and leveling up until, basically there was a stretch in the 2010s where, I don't know, like I feel like I was kind of all around one of the best live players in the world. If you just took everything, like no limit, PLO, mixed games, tournaments, cashed, like not one specific thing, just all of it. And like, I just enjoyed the process of being there, because my process, like, I don't want to say I didn't study, but like if you were a world-class player in like 2013, like what were you going to study? Like you could like watch guys' videos and it would be an interesting, okay, this guy's smart about poker and he thinks this, and I'm going to like process this, and maybe the population is going to think this too, but it wasn't like a game theory optimal solution for the spot. So really my process mostly just played. I thought really deeply about a lot of hands that I played. I would sometimes look up basic probabilities on stuff and then extrapolate what that means about how I should play the spot. And then like my like preparation was way smaller than what I played, and most of my preparation didn't involve poker study. It was like I made sure I would like eat healthy, try to get enough sleep, like do various brain training exercises like luminosity, chess puzzles, the random shit that I would Sudoku that I would cycle in and out of. Like you say, you get bored. Like I do it for 3 or 4 weeks, and then once I was like, you know, you gotta like mix it up for your mind, just like you would with a gym workout. And so like I loved that process, and you know I was kind of on the fucking top of almost everything in poker. And then the solvers changed it, and it changed the process of being a world-class poker player. The process went from, in my opinion, like what I was doing, to like the new thing being like actually a significant portion of your time should be spent studying. And I just didn't like that. To this day, I don't really like it. And I've accepted studying more because it does involve good information, but I don't do it very much. I don't do it nearly as much as other guys who have risen to the top in the last like 7 or 8 years. And because of that, you don't see me playing the biggest no limit hold'em tournaments as much anymore, because I'm realistic about what's that meant. And you know, it is what it is. But anyway, my point about all this is the reason why that happened for me in poker wasn't really because I got tired of it. It's because the process changed.
Right.
And it's like the new process wasn't one that I enjoyed as much. So, you know, I've changed, you know, and actually it's like I'm wearing a Triton thing, like I do the commentary. My number one motivation for doing the commentary is because I get paid to study, and it forces me to watch the best players, break down what they're doing, and think about the game in a situation where I have to be on point for 6 hours straight, getting paid to do it. And so it's been really, really good for my no limit game and tournament game. And so like that's actually, you know, there's a bunch of reasons why I do it, but that's number one.
That's a great answer. Honestly, I mean, if you study, you're going to get paid on the back end, but it's nice to get paid on the front end and actually get it forced to like learn to be really good at poker.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing the Triton commentary?
I did it in 22 for I think all 3 stops. I didn't do it last year, and then I'm supposed to do it this year. We'll see what happens.
Did you do Jeju?
I did Jeju, okay. And I'm supposed to do Montenegro, but I'm in the middle of talking to them about something, and we'll see what happens. Right.
And so when you do the commentary, do you still play any of the events or no?
Yeah, so I did get to play them in Madrid in 22, but then after that they said no, and then going in this time they were like no, but then they said in Montenegro, actually it was like yes, I could do like 1 or 2, it just has to be at the first ones or the last ones. Like I can't do it while I'm doing the commentary.
Is it just to make it easy on them for scheduling? Like they just don't want to have a backup guy or something
Multiple
like that?
reasons. I think the number one reason is yes, doing it in the middle will screw up the whole commentaries team, but it's also a bit like I'm in the booth and going to play, and so it's both of those reasons.
I gotcha.
But yeah, no, my reason is just like, I don't know, it's like when I go, if I was really going to sum up, it's more like when I go, I don't know, at the end of the day, I'm like a player. And I think out of everyone that's doing commentary, I'm like the person who's, you know, me and maybe Schulman have like really played at the highest level. And so it's hard for me to go on this trip and be a staff.
Right.
Like I just, it's like, and for me, because my reasons aren't really about the money, it's like when I go, I need to feel like I'm one of the players. I need to be in there. And so I'm just kind of talking to them about that. And, you know, we'll see what gets worked out with it, because some of it also do with just the availability at the hotels and whatever. But yeah, so.
Is there a little bit of jealousy when you get a commentator at a final table and you're just like, you don't have the ability to play the event, and you're like, man, if I would have played this event, I could have been here.
Yeah, I mean, I would never say something like, well, I could have been there, yeah, but like not like I would expect it. You know, when I went into this last one, because I hadn't been doing the commentary and it hadn't been, you know, my no limit game felt rusty. I was looking at the tournaments and they were great, but I was like, okay, good, I'm in the booth, I'm here to learn. But by the time I had been in there, so I didn't get too much FOMO. But then by the time I had been in there for like a week or so, and the 100K main came around, and it was like the biggest 100K that's ever ran. By that point, I was feeling pretty warmed up. So that I got a little FOMO for that one. 216 runners in the 100K. I was
That's
like,
sick.
yeah.
So much.
I'm like, oh wow, I wish I was playing this. But yeah, you know.
All right. Well, let's bring it back again. Sorry, because I am actually quite curious. So okay, we're done-ish with Stanford, and we know what we're doing. And your goal is to make 100 to 200K a year. Like, what's the plan? Do you move to Vegas right away? Do you grind in Northern California for a bit? What's going on?
So after I dropped out, I stayed for the rest of the year up, because maybe I had rented the place for the year or whatever. I didn't. I don't know. For whatever reason, I stayed up there. I was playing live at Lucky Chances, which had a no-limit game. It's the only place in the Bay Area that had a no-limit game. And ended up staying up there for like 5 months. That summer, I went back down. I ended up staying at my home, in my parents' home, for like another year and a half before I came to Vegas. But basically, right when I left Stanford, I went straight to the WSOP. That was my first WSOP. It might have been the first one at the Rio. And I was there for 5 or 6 weeks. It might be the only WSOP that I've ever lost at.
It was 05, I believe, if my mind is correct.
05, I think that's correct. I think it was the only WSOP I've ever lost at overall. I like went to the WSOP with like 130K, and then after buying in and busting the main, I like went back with like 80K or something, and went back home and just kept grinding.
I did look up your Hendon or card player, whatever thing, and yeah, it was kind of sparse. Like, I don't want to say sparse is like a bad thing or whatever, because like I'm sure you had plenty of online success. But as far as tournaments or whatever,
I played very little tournaments early in my career. Like tournaments were a novelty for me. So actually, up until probably later than most people think. Like, I started out as a cash game player. I would only play tournaments like once in a while. Like that summer, I probably only played like 3 or 4 WSOP. I cashed one.
So you did poor in cash games as well. Like
I did. I lost in cash that summer.
That's surprising to me. That's what I was.
I mean, when it was my first WSOP, you know, I mean, I didn't get like crushed. I just, you know, I lost.
50K in the WSOP summer is,
and you know,
probably a light massage. You know,
10K was the main.
Yeah. Right.
So, I think I busted probably 1 or 2 other tournaments and was playing some stuff, lost, whatever. I think I was probably playing some 25-50 there. I don't even remember. I just know that I lost that summer. But yeah.
So okay, so you
came out. But early in my career, I played very little tournaments. Yeah. I actually didn't really start. I had a streak for a while. I had this, but I think Chidwick has the record now. Like nowadays, $1 million a year is like nothing. But
7 years in a row. Yeah.
And when I started, it was actually the first couple of years that I did it. You know, I mean, I didn't play that many tournaments in like 11 or 12 or whatever. It was so, you know, it wasn't really until like maybe 13 or 14. I think the thing that really spurned me starting to play more tournaments was when Carey started doing the stuff at Aria. Yeah. And then I started playing those, and then I was like, okay, like let me learn tournaments more. So actually, one of the early years there, like back in 14, I'm like, you know, I really need to think more about this ICM stuff. So one of the ways that I studied ICM was when I traveled, I would load up, I think it was stars, but like basically sit and goes. And I wouldn't play the regular ones because they were too slow. I played the hypers.
Yeah.
Because
so getting ICMs quicker. Yeah.
You get, and no, the real reason why is because I would run some of the spots that I thought were interesting afterwards, and like Hold'em resources really only ran push fold spots. And so like when it was a deeper sit and go, basically you couldn't just push fold, right? You had to like raise. Yep. And so I wanted it to get shallow, so it would just be push fold stuff, and then I could run it and it would be accurate. Mm-hmm. That was like the real reason why. And so, you know, I probably did like, that year I probably did like 700 or 800 hypers, and I played like the biggest ones on stars. You know, a guy who's crushing it now, who was one of the best players in it back then, was DeVoris.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that.
I won in my 700 or 800 hypers, baby. Let's go.
That's That's pretty sick.
And
Like,
I felt like it really helped me with ICM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably like one of like 12 people to win those hypers.
So, that helped me with my ICM and helped improve my tournament game a lot back then. And, also with just short stack, like push fold ranges and stuff like that, which as a cash game player, like that's the stuff you're lost at first.
I still struggle at it. Like I mean, obviously I play a lot of tournaments as well, but that was the hardest thing for me at all. Cause like you look down at 6-5 suited or Jack 10 suited or whatever. And it's just like, oh baby,
hand.
let's go. We could do anything with this hand. And you're like, I got 18 blinds. Doesn't matter.
That
like,
6-5 suited, it's like garbage with 18 blinds.
Oh yeah, it is. And like I still struggle. Like I have to like fold it like face down, like make sure no one sees the fact that like in my mind I'm just like, oh, people are gonna judge me if they know like I'm folding such a premium hand right now. But it's so hard.
So you cut your teeth off of like no limit hold'em cash games.
Yeah.
But obviously you won the Players
And then I went to
Championship,
PLO pretty early too.
Three times, right?
I believe three times.
Three times the Players Championship, which is fucking insane. Justin told me that when I walked in. I was like, man, I wish you would have told me that on air because my reaction was like, wow.
So okay, like PLO's a reasonable like transition. How did you get into like stud and like like
the old guy games?
I was just always a person who like, listen, everybody has like different ways that they approach gambling. It's like I start getting a little bit bored and I just need to try the next new thing to like keep my brain stimulated. And so like that's how I was one of the earliest people to get into PLO. And actually the summer that I started playing, like, listen, when I jump in these games, I'm not like playing micro and like learning. Like I jumped into playing PLO towards the end of one summer at the WSOP. I think I had like a stars account and a full tilt account. And I had run up and I had, I think my bankroll was like 250 to 300K. And I had 100K on my stars account that I had run up. And then I started playing like 25-50 PLO. And I just, in like 4 days in my hotel room at the end of the WSOP, I just like fucking dusted that account playing. And I was like, okay. But then basically, this was still in the time when I think this was one of the second WSOP, but I was still at home, so 06. When I came back, I mean, I grinded a little bit smaller with my now like 150 to 200K bankroll, and I played mostly no limit. But then as I was doing well, I added in PLO, not 25-50, maybe like 5-10, and just kind of started doing well. And pretty soon in a couple years, I was like a really good I was one of the first guys from No Limit who was like a really good cash PLO player. And for a couple years back then, maybe cash PLO arguably was my best game. It was close.
It was a better game. I remember this time because I also dove into it about 04, 05, 06 was kind of like when I got into it, knowing limited stuff. But like the games were so much softer and like
yes, because some people were making just some massive fundamental mistakes. Like there was a whole class of people that would like only 4-bet aces and stuff, and it was just like huge leaks essentially. Yeah. Like other people that were just, there were so many people that played it that had just like no idea how to bluff, or like like even like decent players, like hands that never had showdown that maybe they should consider bluffing. They did. I don't know. There were just all kinds of massive leaks that people were. When you would play like solid regs, quote unquote, would like in a no limit game would be like a little bit better than someone who's maybe similar to PLO, just because people were worse.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was, because I was a good no limit player at that time, but like I got into those and I was waiting for the nuts basically, but I would still be breaking even, and like I was starting to slowly like learn that like guys are doing different stuff than whatever I'm thinking, and I got to figure out what they're trying to do. Yeah.
In fact, it was almost the type of thing where, I was really, really good at both games. And I maybe thought like the guys that was like the best cash PLO player or whatever was probably like a little bit better than me at PLO, but there were just more people who were a lot worse at PLO, would be like the way I would have put it. But anyway, how I got into mixed games was like, so I played those. And then there were just some times online where, I had a lot of money on my full tilt account, and every once in a while, there'd be like a mixed game and like Durr would be playing, or just like one of the other big bet players, and I'd be like, this game looks all right. Like I'm just gonna play 8 game, and I'd play it a few times during that same stretch. So this is maybe like 2010, okay? Because it's 2011's when I won. So 2010 or ish, and then And then a couple times live during that year and a half before I played the Poker Players Championship, it would be like, there'd be like a 200, 400, or 300, 600 mixed game at the Bellagio, and I'd show up to the Bellagio, and there wouldn't be anything interesting, and so I'd just like sit in that game and play. And that was always like super interesting because now I'm playing a bunch of games that I never really played before. So it's like every hand I'm thinking really deep, like learning, and so it was a lot of fun. It was stimulating. I feel like unlike the PLO, I probably lost overall in those spots, but like definitely if I didn't win big, that's for sure. If I lost, it wasn't anything significant. It was, and I was, at least online, I wasn't just like sitting mix whenever. It would be like, oh, someone who's not a mixed player is also playing, so let me hop in. And also because like nothing good was going either. It's not like I was like gonna pass up playing good like half and half or like no limit or PLO games to play it. It'd be like nothing's going on. Oh, and here's another guy who probably nothing's going on, so he's playing the mix also, So I was just kind of learned a little bit. And so then by the time the Poker Players Championship happened, it was one of those things where I was having a good series. Like I just won, I won my first kind of like, even though it was only a 1,500, it was a bracelet. And, and because of that, I decided I was going to play. I, sold actually a decent amount of action to some people who were there. I think Antonio, Blitz, Roble, I think they all had pieces. They were all on the rail when I won. And it was one of those things where it's kind of cool because I was, compared to most people in that tournament, I was like so much better at no limit and PLO than them. It was like, honestly, I feel like light years. And then in the other games, I was behind, but I think I was probably a little bit more competent than people thought. So it was like, and then I just tried to play solid for the most part.
That's really interesting to be like, I'm in a mixed game tournament, and the reason I'm so good at it is because I'm really good at these two big bet games, and then the other ones, maybe they're like 20% better or something, right? Like you're, I don't know, you're pressing a weird edge that you don't think about when someone like is
I'm not even really sure I had an edge. Like the one thing I knew was good for me is the final table, because it was on ESPN, was going to be a no limit. So I knew that was like amazing for me.
I forgot about that. Like they changed it to like where it's all no limit on the final table.
That was a couple
to make
years.
It exciting.
There was wasn't. It was because they were showing it on ESPN for a couple years. And so ESPN didn't want to show mix. Because no one knows all these games.
What are they doing?
They tried it in like 04, 05, and like they tried the stud championship and everything on there, and people lost interest, and like the viewership went way down. So in my mind, and I know nobody from ESPN, but like I honestly thought like they changed it just because people wanted to watch like they want to watch Hold'em. Like Hold'em's like way more entertaining. There's all ins.
I mean, here's the thing. Poker's complicated. Yeah. It's hard enough. You have this huge audience. Obviously, most of the people aren't going to are amateur or just complete recreational, very little experience with the game. You can't start showing them games they don't know. They're just like, okay, whatever, I'm out. Like in order to really be interested in poker, you do have to understand what's going on. Then what's happening becomes interesting. Like, oh, this guy's bluffing or not. When you don't even know the game, it's like too much to ask.
Oh, he has 42%. Now he has 32%. Now he has 62%. It's like,
I mean, you're right, but my dad's been watching poker for like 5 years. He still doesn't know how the blinds work. He's like sweating poker go. I'm like, Dad, I'm on this one. And he's like, okay, cool. He's like, why'd you go all in with that king queen?
Guys, can I get another beer?
Oh, yeah.
Can we?
Beer break?
Beer break.
Hey guys, what's up? Art here. Just a quick break to tell you about how easy it is to get into the game on Table 1. If you like High Stakes No Limit and you want to play with me or Justin or any of the characters that you've seen either on this podcast or in various videos on social media, all you have to do is go to www.table1.vegas. It's table, the number 1.vegas. And then click for a seat in the game. If you don't have the bankroll, if 5100 is a bit too big, but you have some friends that might play, we have a partnership affiliate program too. So just click the link at the top, it says partnerships, and that's it. And maybe while you're there, you buy one of these snazzy t-shirts that my wife makes. All right, back to the pod.
Actually, coming to Vegas, one of the things that really helped me is I was like, besides reading a few books, I was like total solo journey in my first part of my poker career. Like I very quickly, like no one at Stanford took it seriously. Like, I was way better than all my friends by the time I left. When I was in San Diego, I didn't know anybody. And so it wasn't until I moved to Vegas that you remember Keith Gibson? Like, him and I were like super close friends. Keith was good. Keith was a much different player than me, but he was good. He was very tight. And so, like, I talked a lot of poker with him, and it helped me a lot. Because, like, one of the things when you talk poker with someone is sometimes you talk about a hand, and he'll mention the part of the hand you weren't even thinking about.
That's right.
And that's actually, like, the best way you learn the most. Isn't the part you're thinking about, it's the part you didn't even realize you were fucking up. And, like, and, you know, I also met Andrew Roble, who's obviously was an amazing poker player. And so, like, the three of us were super tight, and we talked a lot of poker, and that helped me, like, immensely. But yeah.
Yeah, it's underrated. Not even though you probably didn't do it on purpose. Picking someone that's your whatever, someone you want to talk poker with that has complementary skills to what you have. Like, you have a loose, aggressive, natural personality.
Yeah,
And
I
like,
used to be super loose aggressive. I mean, right?
I remember,
Yeah.
I had fun playing against you. I
Yeah.
thought you were fucking awesome.
Well, actually, you know what the truth is that it's funny now. Like, I even, you know, one of the cool things about solvers is you can actually, you know, people think, oh, it's just GTO, but you know, I don't really use them this way. But I've watched a video from GTO Wizard where it's like how to exploit loose players, and it shows like all this node locking and shit, and like how it changes the outputs. And I'm like, wow, dude, I had figured out how to exploit loose players really fucking good like 15 years ago.
Sure.
Because I was like doing a lot of this, like just like 100% C betting and like bigger, like, I don't know. So, you know,
what's the secret? I play with a lot of loose players. I can't beat them.
Well, here's the thing: is like they don't really punish. Like, a lot of loose players, they continue too much, but they actually under aggress. So you can get away with just like over C betting for large sizes, and then you just play really fit or fold versus their aggression if they like check raise you, right? Stuff like that. Actually, that type of exploit still works well today, even against
really
good players in
I was just thinking, I was like, that's me.
other
Damn
games,
it.
other games that aren't Hold'em where people aren't as studied. I won't say which ones, but there are some of them.
Secret games.
This is too, my pass is too public for this. You know, I can't give away all the alpha.
Speaking of giving away information, something that I think is super underrated by professionals but overrated by amateurs, and that's live physical tells. How do you think about live tells when you're playing poker?
I think live stuff is very important. It's not something I've spent time. I've like actually worked with somebody, Blake Eastman. He's put out material on this, and I've read some of it. I've worked with him. I've thought a decent amount about it, and some of it is what people think of when they think of tells, and other stuff is just like this kind of weird mapping of like, once you get, like, I'm really good at Bayesian analysis of like, I've just witnessed a certain number of hands with somebody, right, and just kind of this mathematical intuition of categorizing them and how they're playing based on limited information. Like, I'm just naturally like super good at that. Mm-hmm. And so throughout my career, just having played with someone a limited amount, like kind of making judgments about like how they play in these spots, like, you know, not only obviously spots I see, but then what that means for the rest of their game. I feel like I've been really good at that, which has helped me like adapt to exploit, you know, really well. And then you kind of can mix that in with bet sizing in certain spots along with timing in certain spots in order to just like kind of narrow things down, and that like ends up funneling through your brain, and you get like an intuition about like what their range is or like what's going on in this spot and like what you should do. And it's just like kind of and that also is kind of a live tell thing as well, sort of.
It is. No, it is.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, that's really the part where I really excelled at. And some of the more traditional live tell stuff, I wouldn't say I'm world class, but I've done like a little bit of work in it, and like sometimes I also get reads from that stuff too. But like, I definitely think like one of my best friends in the world is Antonio Esfandiari, and he was like world class at that stuff back in the day. Like a little bit more like the second thing I said rather than the first. Right. Like, so just categorizing somebody, this and what they're capable of, just like physical body language of whatever they're doing during a hand or whatever. But there's a bunch of other things with live tells too, like how somebody bets their chips and this and all. And really what you're doing with that is like first, I know there's books and this idea that like someone does something so it means this, but it's more like comparing it to their baseline. You need to baseline somebody for what they normally do and then see what they then do differently in certain spots or whatever. And that's like the more important part of that than just some like dead, this means this. Yeah. Like that's like way too basic and not really the way it works.
I think I agree with you.
100%, but you have to find the baseline first. And I think the best way, at least for me anyway, to find baseline with people, experience, obviously more hands the better.
Yeah.
But like actually talking to people, like, you know, you get someone comfortable talking to you or whatever, and then like all of a sudden they're in a stressful situation and things get off tilt a little bit with them.
Actually, there's somebody who comes to mind today who I think is out of like at least well-known players. He's like, I'd say the #1 guy at this in my opinion. Who'd you pick?
Chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chance.
There we go.
Yeah.
I got it right.
I think Chance is pretty sick at this stuff.
Yeah, no, he is. And like, he concentrates very hard, and I always feel weird, like I'm friends with him, but every time he talks to me at the table, like,
what are you trying to get?
I don't want to talk to you right now.
And we're gonna have Chance on soon, and I'm gonna ask him the same question. But like, I don't know. There's one way to do it, and the way that Chance does it is very like aggressive and like not aggressive, but like you could tell he's like
focused.
He's
it's
focused
focused
on
attention.
you, and you know what he's thinking about it, or not what he's thinking about, but you know he's looking at you and he's looking for something. And you know he's world class at exactly what you said.
Other people have done it in more relaxed ways. I mean, I think a lot of like the most famous players like do a lot of this stuff. Not like Antonio did this a lot, but like some of them do it in a more relaxed, almost like table captain-y way, where like they're running the table sort of from an emotional and like just conversational standpoint, and then like the feedback through a lot of that ends up like giving them reads on people. So like Antonio used to be fucking world class at this. Somebody who's very good at it's like Daniel Negreanu. Even Phil Hellmuth. Like
I agree with that.
People don't really like listen technically and whatever. Okay, Phil has his faults, but when you put him at a table at the WSOP with like fish cakes, and he's like in there just like running the conversation, all of a sudden there's an aggressive player, and he starts berating the guy, and then the guy has some reaction. Either the guy backs down and Phil's like, okay, this guy's backing down. Or the guy's like, comes even harder because it's like, okay, Phil fucking Hellmuth is challenging me. Like, I got to show him who's boss. Like, we're going to really show him now. So it's like he kind of uses that whole table captain presence and to manipulate everybody and then reads the feedback. But there's other, you know, I think Negreanu, Hellmuth, and Esfandiari are my like 3 classic examples of guys who do that through like their presence and table captaining. But yeah.
I agree. No, that was a good answer. Thanks, dude. And I think especially the part where you went into the intuition about hand reading and I always thought it was Bayesian, but I guess it's Bayesian. I've only ever read it. I've never said it. But the whole like, you've played a lot of hands or you've played a few with this guy and like he's doing something on the river, whether he's betting on a card that you're like, why would you even, like, why are you doing it? Like that size and this timing, like it's weird. It's not right, you know? And it's, like you said, it's a funnel of intuition that you can't really explain. I mean, or you can, but like it's just, it drives you to an action that like you've done the call enough times and gotten your hand slapped by the ruler. And then now you're like, okay, I guess I just fold in this spot now. So I think that's
Bayesian,
cool.
The way I would succinctly put it is like you have limited information that you're now using to deduce like what someone is doing probabilistically, right? But it's not like you have conclusive statistical information, right? You have a limited information, so then now you're making kind of probabilistic deductions based on the limited information. Yeah.
The range is here.
And it's like every kind of hand that goes by, maybe there's another data point that goes, but you still like don't really have enough for a conclusive
you just take your educated
result.
guess and
exactly
add another data point like you said. All right, that's cool. That was good. I'm glad we talked about tells for a bit because I am really interested in that shit, and I am like you. I don't like to study, and I like to kind of study interactively.
Just like learn by doing.
Yeah,
I love learning by doing. I've never liked studying my entire life, even going back to high school. Like I was just in a situation where I didn't have to study that much and did great. But a
if you have to study, it may not be for you. That's the way I treated almost everything, honestly. Like,
if you're calling it study anyway, if you're naturally interested and curious, and that's why the rabbit hole you go down, then it's not studying. Then it's just your curiosity. So.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's